You're pretty, Noah.
Okay, thanks,
You're
Mark.
pretty, Ashby.
You are too.
Thank you.
Oh, what about me? Hey, welcome everyone. I'm Emily Gibson and I'm the co-founder of ATX TV. I'm so excited to be here with some of the cast of My Life with the Walter Boys, which debuts on Netflix on December 7th. Joining me today, we have Nikki Rodriguez, who plays Jackie, Noah LaLonde, who plays Cole, Ashby Gentry, Alex, Sarah Rafferty, who plays Catherine, and Marc Blucas, who plays George. Thank you guys so much for being here. How you feeling?
Good, really
Fantastic.
Good. Well, everyone just watched the pilot, so I know you filmed it a while ago, but do you remember a scene when you were filming when you thought, I just can't wait for audiences to see this scene? It can be about a later episode, but just be careful of spoilers. Nikki, I want to start with you.
Yeah, so no spoilers because it is in a later episode, particularly episode 5, which is one of my favorites. There's a scene actually with Sarah and I that when we filmed it, it was like one of the greatest experiences as an actor. And also watching it back, it was just so like touching, and I'm just really excited for people to see that one.
Sarah, no pressure, but I'm going to throw it to you.
I'm just so happy to hear what Nikki just said. Very touched that I got to share that with her. In the pilot, I mean, Noah getting out of the pool. Come on, you guys! Like, can we just cut to that?
True.
What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we talking about here?
Is that in the
But
pilot?
Nikki, I got to tell you that one of my favorite days was getting to shoot our scene in the pilot together. That first scene, and being in that room together with you was such a joy. And you were okay, Blucas, whatever.
Better than I thought you were going to say. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Noah, how about you? And it does not have to be the pool scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think the man, it's funny because it was a long time ago, but now that I think about it, everybody just saw the snake thing for the first time, right? So
Yes.
that I mean, that is something that watching
Wait,
that
that's in the
unfold-
pilot? Oh.
Yeah. That's so watching that unfold in real time was a lot of fun, and I was really interested to see how it kind of turned out, because it was one of the first times where we're all together, and to see everything kind of go to that so quickly was it was a lot of fun to be a part of, and I think it probably came across really well. Like somebody out there is just seeing it for the first time. So
Who had to handle the snake, and was anyone too scared to touch it? Do you remember?
Did you have to?
I don't remember who handled it, but I actually really love snakes, so it was, yeah, I was really excited to be in a scene with a snake, but yeah, I don't know who handled it.
I believe we shot multiple coverages with the snake, and so there was like a real snake that they brought in, and it was like a trained snake, and then there was a prop snake. But imagine being snake trainer for a job. Like, you train professional like cinematic snakes. That's crazy.
Go shoot in Louisiana, and it'll be someone on the call sheet who shows up every day, the steak wrangler, and it's the guy with
Yeah,
the
snake
bucket,
wrangler.
the big boots, and the stick. Like, yeah, no, they're out there.
What a job title.
Ashby, do you have a scene from the pilot that you were excited for people to see?
Totally. Well, personally, I shut the show off after the pool scene. I was like, that's it. I'm out. I quit. I have no chance. But from what I remember from shooting, I think the scene that captures everything good about this show can be seen within the scene in which Jackie is getting ready for school and the Walter boys are getting ready for school. At all of the sincerity that this show presents to the world can be found within that scene. And I think that's my favorite, one of the best scenes in the entire show, and certainly in the pilot. It captures the essence so well.
I want to echo you. I so heartily agree. I love that scene, and I love just the constant state of vibration that the room is in, and the movement. And I was so delighted when I finally got to see that, because I don't know, we shot everything out of order, so I don't know if I'm spoiled. If there's any spoiling conversation, I don't know, because I remember everything in the order that we shot, which is completely wrong. But that day, that just like everybody's points of focus being in, it was like a dance. And
Yeah.
and there were so many relationships, just blips of relationships and love and chaos and beauty and all those things. I love that you called that out, Ashby. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, I was watching that scene with my acting teacher today, an old acting teacher of mine, and I was like, we were watching you, Sarah, wrangle all of us, and he was so delighted. Like he just like would chuckle when he would watch these dinner scenes, and I was like, like she went to Yale, like she's very about like working off her partner, and he was like, oh, that's good, and so props to you.
For that scene and for the big scenes that a lot of people are in, did you have a lot of rehearsal? Was it choreographed pretty precisely, or did it feel a little bit more like chaos?
In hour-long television, there's not that much time for rehearsing. And again, I'm like Sarah, like we shot so out of order on this show. I'm not sure exactly what came first or not, but I do remember early on, oftentimes when you show up and everybody's kind of new, you're like, okay, we have 3 relationships we have to make and be specific, and you want it to come across, and you have one piece of dialogue, so you're trying to find it in beats that aren't necessarily in the script, and suddenly we have 11 people all thrown in a room, and we have an hour and a half to get a 5-page scene, and we're all making food and passing food, and some of that, to echo what Ashby said, is like was the charm of us learning each other and figuring it out and allowing some accidents and mistakes to all be organic and a part of it. And that's where, and a credit to Melanie and her staff of writers as well, because I think that when we started to find some of those little dynamics, they started to write to it a little bit, and they were like, oh, those two kind of have a fun thing going, which was nice. And the other thing for me to because I wanted to have a crack at answering that question, just in an effort to give a compliment really to Ashby. Like, he and I had some really fun scenes together, and I really, really enjoyed working with him. And we could sit and kind of improvise a couple of different moments and try them when we would run lines or in the first take that would get a good response by keep it or not, don't, but we like this moment. And he was such a fun person to go back and forth. And we have a scene at some number episode, and he worked so hard at mastering riding a horse and off camera on his off days, and he was constantly there doing it. And we just had a scene where I come tearing up on a 4-wheeler and get down, and he hops off a horse, and we're sitting just having this really great father-son dynamic where you try to feel like you're equals but impart a little bit of wisdom to your kid. And he and I had a lot of really tender moments like that, and it was a fun thing to explore, capture, and kind of bring to life.
I love that. Wait, can I ask a question, since we're in here and since we're free flowing?
Absolutely.
Nikki, do you remember when we shot the scene in the pilot in the upstairs, and I was walking away, and you tried a bunch of different things to get my attention to call me back?
Yeah.
Do you remember that moment? Like, I think you called me different, like you called me Catherine, you called me Kathy, or you might have called me Aunt. Like, you had different things, and I remember exploring that with you, and that you like dropped Catherine into my heart, because the sound of your voice when I was walking away, on one of them, I remember, I think you tried like something affectionate, like very affectionate, and I felt like I turned around with like, are you gonna pick me? With this like emotion of like, will she pick me? Will she like let me be something important to her, And I just like those little gems, like you were saying, Marc, like those little like unplanned, discovered pings of like, this feels meaningful, can sustain, you know, through, like, I'll be able to check in with those kinds of moments if we are lucky enough to meet again and shoot more, and just like drop into those moments and then be back. But you did that, you gave that to me, Nikki, and I just am so grateful to you for that.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that
Yeah.
was one of my favorite scenes, like, of all time. So, I mean, you're great. I mean, I love working with you. You're so there for your partner, and it's like the best experience.
I feel like that very much leads into my next question about, this is a very big cast, not only just the Walter family, but every family member also has a set of friends. So there's a lot of people around. How did you bond with each other? Did you do anything to get to know each other off screen? And then, I mean, Sarah, you just kind of answered it, to form those relationships and those moments on screen. Ashby, I want to start with you.
Oh, that's perfect, because I was gonna cut in there anyway.
I can feel it.
Well, I was fortunate enough to shoot over my birthday. So my birthday was on a Saturday while we were filming. And I really gotta say, I've said this time and time again since we started doing press when we were shooting the project, but the most gratifying part of doing this for me has been being able to vicariously experience what it would be like to have such a big family that loves each other so much. Because Marc and Sarah took all of us to Banff over mine and another castmate of ours, Alicia, whom we love dearly. We co-celebrated our birthdays together. And Marc and Sarah took us to Banff and took us rafting. And then we went and had dinner at the Fairmont in Banff, which is one of the most beautiful hotels you'll ever stay in. And it has one of the most beautiful views you'll ever experience. And we had this cake that was fantastic. It was like this birthday cake that they got me that was fantastic. And I took it home, and I definitely shouldn't have, because I ended up eating it like throughout the rest of the week. And I was like, oh, I don't need this. And there are these chocolate chip cookies at the Fairmont in Banff that are the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm not trying to be cheesy here. Like, this is such a genuine statement. I think that was probably the best birthday I've ever had in my entire life. And I cannot echo enough the gratitude that I have for both of them in particular for cultivating that kind of environment on set, because it's so crucial to underpin the sincerity that is what makes this show unique. But also, just as a young actor surrounded by a ton of young actors who are so new to this industry and this art form, it's been so helpful to have these two as kind of a beacon of guidance within what can be often a tricky lifestyle, especially when you're in a new country shooting something far away from home. And so I'm really, really grateful for them, because what makes this show work so well is the family dynamic that we have off screen that then comes through subliminally on screen.
What a horrible answer, Ashby.
My gosh,
It's just the worst.
you're not going to go anywhere in life.
The chocolate chip cookies were good though, right?
They
Those
were.
were epic. I will
That's
take
awesome.
I will take the Beacon title. I want that one, but I can't take any credit for planning the float that we did. That is all Marc Blucas.
You know,
The float.
she's saying this because now that the cat's out of the bag, we were under strict rules not to tell production that I had organized a trip going down a river with the entire cast that could have shut everything down. Now, she just passed that right off to me. That was not.
Oh
I'm not the Marc Blucas that they're talking about in this particular instance.
Dude, we already got
That's okay.
paid.
no!
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
no,
was awesome.
I
Everything was good.
I have a story that can get me in just as much trouble if I can
Cool.
kind of go off piste and answer it,
Good.
which is that production was kind enough to allow me access to a vehicle while we were there. So I loved the opportunity to grab some of my pretend sons and put them in the car and drive to Banff, because the best bonding time as a real parent, you know this, Mark, is when your kids are trapped in your car. I mean, you can get real quiet, and you can overhear stuff, or you can engage, and they're kind of stuck. And we had so much fun. I remember, Ashby, once you were in the back of the car and you were doing all the Proust questionnaire. Do you remember
Oh,
when we did that,
yeah.
driving home from Banff one night?
Yeah, I do remember that. Wow.
We
That
went
was,
hiking.
the hike.
Go
Yeah.
on. Yeah, it was the time that we went for the hike. And Mark, you had gone home. You were at home that weekend. So I had the fellas,
Kids.
and we went on a very long, beautiful hike to the paint pots. Do you remember this, Noah? We went to,
Do you remember what was at the end of it?
this is where I'm going.
Okay,
So
yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I'm trying, I'm desperately want to be cool mom. Like, I want to be like cool fake mom. So I want to be like, yeah, I'm, you know, hiking in Banff for like 4 hours. Nothing aches at all. I can like get to the top of this thing. I'm sucking so much wind, like trying to get to the top of this thing. I want to see the end. And all of a sudden we're within meters of the big payoff, the ink pots or the paint pots or whatever it is. And 30 people come running the other direction. And what do they say to us? Gentlemen, do you remember?
I think Noah remembers.
I think they said something about hey, so there's a meal taking place down at the end of the path, but it's not a human meal. There's a bear, and it's ready for lunch. So we should all start heading back. And I mean, me personally, I don't have that much experience hiking, so I didn't know. Like, Connor Stanhope was with us, and he's from Vancouver, and he was like, guys, we have to leave right now. And I was like, should we see the bear? Like, should we check out the bear? But it was like not should we do anything but evacuate? And you could tell on the way back who was a tourist and who wasn't, because some people they did have that mindset, like, yeah, like, let's go see. But yeah, I mean, immediately we turned around, and I'd like to think how many, man, it would have been tough to keep doing the show after losing 6 of us to a grizzly bear. I guess
It was a grizzly bear, because I spent a lot of time in Vermont where we have brown bears and black bears, and that's not a big deal. Like, they're in the yard where we are.
Mhm.
You kind of watch it. You give them their space. Of course, you don't bother them, but you can look at them and enjoy them. So I paused and I was like, "Who's the bear? Like, can we go look at the bear?" And someone was like, "Not unless you want to be the lunch." And like,
Yeah.
started running the other way because it was a grizzly bear. I mean, it was cocaine bear. Like, come on. Like, it was no joke. So
Yeah.
Mark, I could have gotten in a lot more trouble than that. Like, beautiful, idyllic float that you organized, the unforgettable, like, Rocky Mountain High, beautiful moment. This was like
And,
cocaine
you know,
bear coming at us.
and to oversimplify an answer, it was just like, clearly, without this sounding like too much of a, you know, a vomitous compliment fest to everybody, like, we're just blowing smoke. Like, we all really enjoyed one another. And Sarah and I remember very specifically saying to my wife and then to Sarah, like, my biggest fear, and this is not painting a great picture of me, my biggest fear was coming into a bunch of young actors who, like Ashby said, were pretty new to the game, that were more interested in having a relationship with their telephone than and with a smartphone than they were with the rest of us. And that was immediately put to bed on the first day of set when I saw all these. Sorry, I still call you kids. Sorry, we just do. When I saw all these kids with how seriously they took it and how they showed up every day as professionals on time, knew their material. Sarah and I both had kids in a different country, so we were on our phones more than them. And it was just so impressive to see. And I was so floored. I was so prepared to be like, oh, I'm going to be the dad that gives advice and offer all this shit. They didn't need shit from me. Like, it was so impressive. I was like, man, I wish I was that mature and that in control of the craft and that committed at that age. And that part of what they brought to the table as professionals, I think, made it, and as human beings that we got to learn just as quickly, made it so easy for Sarah and I to want to do those kind of weekend things that just add on to, because as we know, it's like there's not a lot of rehearsal time anymore these days. Like, you have to be instant family. It's just add water. Here's a bunch of actors. You guys pretend you've known each other and lived with each other for 20 years. And that's not always the case. And we were all on this is the brilliance of the casting department and Melanie and her team of people and everybody at Sony and Netflix who said, this is the group we want to put together, because they really matched energies and personalities and chemistries really well. And at the end of the day, present company excluded, I think they casted really good-hearted people and we all genuinely liked each other. And to me, that's chemistry. That's when friendship translates. That's what kind of gets up on the screen. And I think we were able to see it early on. And part of it is what you guys were talking about too, with those early, here's 15 people in a kitchen. We don't have much rehearsal time. I'm like, Ashby, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to get the bread. I'm like, good. Sarah, what do you do? She's like, throw me the keys across to the desk. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to get coffee. I might spill it. Where's the napkins? And we just had to kind of figure it all out on the fly. And it gave it a lot of life and energy and allowed all these relationships to be like injected with steroids so we could just accelerate it all.
And then Ashby ate all the gummy bears.
Oh,
did.
yes.
I got
You were
in
throwing 'em.
trouble.
Did the throw
Yeah.
make it into the show?
I unfortunately don't think it made it in,
Damn
but
it.
God knows I tried, because I was throwing gummy vitamins at literally every single person in the kitchen. We were like, hey, God, and you get them, and then they were like, you're not allowed to eat off script anymore, Ashby, because you just ate like 20 gummy vitamins. And I was fine. I lived to tell the tale, but yeah.
Mark, I want to jump off what you were talking about the other day about when you sat down for the first table read and are looking at this cast and wanted to take a moment for each of them to tell their story of getting the call that they had gotten the part. I want to start with why you thought that was an important way to kick off the first table read in this group gathering.
I guess for two reasons. One, I could see myself back then. Like I was a little late to the game. I didn't start to realize I was 24 or 25, but I remember that feeling of getting that phone call. I mean, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was my first series regular. It was my first big job in town. And I remember where I was and when I got that phone call. And because this was literally a table read, we had all just gotten to Calgary. Like we were all so new to each other. I was like, this is such a great way to see into their lives and who they are as people by telling them the story and their comfort level and their dynamic. And it was just, I just kind of cut everybody off and stopped Melanie and Jerry, our director, from the table read. I was like, hey, hang on. Like, it would just be so fun for me to relive this through them and get to know them as people. I said, hey, before we start the table read, I want to go around the room, say your name and say where you were when you got the phone call that you got the job. And it was just so fun to hear everybody kind of bring that to life. Like, no, I remember you're so specifically, you're like, oh my God, I was waiting.
Wait, let Noah tell it. Wait.
No, I'm going to let them, but I just like.
They all get to tell their stories.
No, but I want them to know, like, it's like, it wasn't just a stock question. Like, it was so fun to hear those. And I remember those answers. Like, it's so great.
Yeah. I mean, I could jump into my story because I will say in the whole process, so much has happened in the last year and a half since getting the first audition request to getting the call back. And I remember it all so vividly because I had never done any of it before. And I remember like clockwork. I mean, every single day I'd wake up, I'd check my emails, I'd call my dad. He'd ask me what was going on, and I would tell him, and he's like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, Dad, I don't know. And we would just go back and forth. And, when we got down to it, it was, I mean, I'm telling you, this is really exposing myself. But when I heard I had a test deal, that was the first time I'd heard that. So I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, so do I have to test again in front of people? Do I have to, because I will surely bomb in a room of people. Do I have to do something else? I was always looking for like, when is going to be the thing that is too much for me? And finally, I thought it had happened the day I got the part, because I was working at BJ's Restaurant and Brew House, and it was a lunch shift, and there was not many people there. I think I had one table. It was an older gentleman, and I took his order, I put it in, and then I got an email from my manager that said, "Hey, the Zoom connection got cut off in your last audition, so they need you to reread some of the sides." are you good in 5 minutes? I'm like, I have my I'm at work, like I'm a sweater, I'm like wearing all black, I'm sweaty, it's hot. And so I'm like, yeah, I sure, I don't have the lines down, I don't have any, I'm at work. She's like, just go to your car. So I went to my car. I didn't even tell anybody. I just went to my car, and I got on the Zoom, and I was like, hey guys, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm thinking in my head, I lost this is like the biggest moment of my life, and I'm not prepared at all. And I was like, I don't have the sides, like, can you send them to me? Like, is there a way for me to read them? And it was just going poorly. I couldn't even pull them up, and they said, well, it should be fine because you got the part. You're Cole Walter. And just like, there's no way for me to describe it, because it was so like, it was, they say that a surprise in the positive form is like the greatest thing you can possibly have. And I don't know. I've never had that feeling in my life. And I said, oh my God, I got to get back to work. And so I called my dad. My manager called me. She said, they got you. And I was like, this is real funny. I still got to put my 2 weeks in and get back to the. So I called my dad and my mom, because, when something like this happens to you, it's just, there's no way for it just to be like just me. Like, I would not be here if there were not for the support from them. So I did call them before I went back to work, and I walked right back into the kitchen. The burger was ready. I dropped it off with the guy, and like nothing changed in the restaurant. And I am now this experience has altered my life forever. And then I went out. I don't smoke cigarettes, but I went out to like where people take smoke breaks, and everyone called me. I was like, guys, someone just walked in. I'll call you back after work. So it was amazing. I mean, nothing short of like the greatest day of my life, honestly. Until I got to Calgary. But yeah, it was a great story. I'm just so happy that it happened. It was amazing.
Got the chills again, man.
that.
Killing
So
me.
good.
I do too. I feel like I haven't really told it in a while. Like,
Yeah, it's so good.
yeah, it's remarkable. And like, at the moment when it happens, you realize all the stuff that's obvious that is going to change, but you don't realize like the people in this room, like everyone's talked about, like my life is changed from knowing each one of these people, my experiences with them, like my connections with them. And as exciting as like this week is, like the show coming out, like this is the stuff that nobody can take this away. Like, somebody can think what they want about the show, someone can think what they want about how Cole Walter's pool scene looks, but nobody can take Nikki, Ashby, Sarah, and Marc like out of my life. And like that forever will be what I found out that day, and I didn't even know it. So it just is the call that keeps on giving. So I'm super grateful for that.
Nikki, do you remember yours?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that I have to go after a story like that, because it's not nearly as great, like, let me tell you. But the question is really funny to me, because the whole scenario, how it happened, was truly, I was making a breakfast burrito in the microwave, and as the microwave hit 0, my manager called me and my agent called me, and they said, first of all, I was so excited for my breakfast burrito. It's the highlight of my morning. And they called me and they basically just said, hey, do you have any cold weather clothes? And I was like, why? And then they told me that I got the part. And it was such a blur, because for this role, I totally did the actor thing, where I was like, I counted myself out, and I didn't think that I was right for the role. And so like, it was so hard for me to wrap my head around that it was true, and it still feels that way. I still can't believe it. I mean, we've heard how everyone feels about everyone else on the show and the experience, and it's been like a dream come true in every single way. And so I'm just so grateful for the show. I'm so grateful for these people, and I just like couldn't have imagined a better experience.
That's so sweet. It's so funny. You were like, I don't think I'm right. You were doing that actor thing. I was
did.
doing the opposite actor thing because they were taking forever to cast all of you all. I was stalking the show. I'm like, I am George Walter. What's going on? I sent in my tape. I did my slate. And for anybody watching doesn't know what a slate is, when an actor submits an audition, you always have to say your name and your height and where you're based and all this other stuff. And I did my slate because, you know, they live on a ranch with equipment. I did it with my barn in the background, the tractor there. My pickup truck was in the deep background. And Marc Blucas, I am George Walter. This is my height. I'm based here. Like, I was like going after it like crazy. And you're like, I'm so not right for it. Where's my next breakfast burrito?
Yeah, we really.
Ashby, how about you?
I was a nervous wreck before I got the call. I was in the Dominican Republic working on a different project, and that was my first real project that I'd ever worked on. I'd had one job before and I got cut. So that was my first like job where it's like, okay, they can't cut me. And so I knew I was getting on a plane, either getting on a plane back to go to Calgary to begin my work as an actor, or get on the plane and go back to my job pouring water as a busser, because I never even made it to the point of server. And I remember there was this one thing that happened that I've never told the story before. I was freaking out, and I was like, oh God, I was like, if there's anything out there, I don't know if there is, but if there is, like, give me a sign that it's all gonna be okay. And I like looked up at this beautiful starlit sky in the Dominican Republic on a Caribbean beach, and I was like, and nothing happened. I was like, cool, great. And then a friend of mine turns over to me and she goes, you know, I have this app where you can point it at the sky and see what the constellations are. Aren't you a Leo, Ashby? And I was like, yes, loud and proud, July 30th, I'm a Leo. Let's go. And she goes, wow, that's crazy. We are directly under the constellation for Leo right now. And at that moment, I didn't know I would get the part. I had no clue what was going to happen, but I was like, I know whatever happens, it's going to be okay, because that's what I asked. And then my agents called me the next day. I was helping a friend, Emma Katari, with a self-tape, and they were like, you got the part? I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I put on rap music for 2 hours and danced around my hotel room to Drake, and I would do it all over again. And my manager, the way he told me was, guess who doesn't have to bust tables anymore? And now it's been 14 months, and I'm like, Jeff, you were dead wrong, buddy, because I'm going right back. But it was great.
I love how different all of those stories were. And I think that was a beautiful way to start the table read. So well done, Marc. Okay,
Can I jump on something here?
Of course.
Just to close out this piece.
Absolutely.
To pick up something, which is, Nikki, first of all, I so appreciate that you shared that you were talking yourself out of it. Like, thank you for sharing that. I feel seen and known. Thank you. Noah, just to pick up what you said reminded me of this amazing quote, and I just want to be a massive nerd and read it. Okay, can I do that? That's like such a mom nerd thing. It's like something my mom would do. She was an English teacher. But so this is Anise Nin. You probably know it, because I feel like you said it in describing how you feel. Each friend represents a world in us, a world not born until they arrive. And it is only by this meeting that a new world is born. Isn't that cool? She was writing about this and whenever, and you just wrote some really cool literature shit.
No, I mean, it's totally true. I mean, I think everything that we are is, you know, we can take credit for everything we do, but You don't, if you can choose to not realize it, but every time you cross paths with somebody, they leave you with something. And, I prefer to acknowledge that I've been left with a lot, and I wouldn't be this iteration of me without every piece. And like this current iteration has been deeply left with the worlds of these people. On my screen, it's these people. And like that's been my life, is how I've been affected by them lately. So it's totally right. And I'm
Yeah,
it's
and you
incredible.
discover yourself anew, like in the company of great friends.
Yeah.
Something, a new compartment somewhere.
I love that.
Anyway, back to the real questions about the TV show. Sorry.
Well, what I love about this is it really does all come back to the fact that this whole thing started years ago when Ali Novak, the author, wrote this story. And I know that she visited set. So Nikki, really from you, were you able to spend time with her? And when you did, could you see 15-year-old Jackie in meeting Ali?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she came to set one day with Noah and Ashby and we got to have lunch with her, and it was so cool. She's so sweet. I could definitely see 15-year-old Jackie in her. But she came a little bit later into filming, so by then it was like I tried to trust what I was bringing to Jackie, and she was very complimentary. We mainly had questions for her, like how cool is it to write something and to see it come to life years later? So she was super excited, and I mean, just how great is it to be able to ask her questions about the book, and it was awesome.
I love that. Did Noah, Ashby, did either of you draw anything out of her about your characters?
I mean, I think there's a pretty funny anecdote about I think Ashby tells it better than me, but it was us three, and we got to eat lunch with her, and she was kind of talking about she was just talking about how she envisioned everybody in their head. And I think she said something to me along the lines of like, oh yeah, you're just like what I had in mind for Cole. And then she kind of turned to, what did she say to you, Ashby?
Oh, Ali Novak, the author. Oh, I'll never forget meeting Ali. It was a special moment in my life, and like Noah said, she goes, man, Noah. I'm like, first of all, beautiful, right? And she's like, I mean, gorgeous. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a fan, and I'm supposed to be playing his antagonist. And then she's like, yeah, he's so Cole. He's just so Cole, just exactly how I imagined. I was like, yeah, how is it, having these characters in your brain and then you see them? She goes, oh, Sarah and Mark. I'm like, yes, Sarah and Mark, great, right? Like the best parents ever. She's like, yeah, they're exactly how I imagined George and Catherine. And I was like, me too. Then she goes, and Nikki's the perfect Jackie. I mean, she is Jackie. And I was like, you're absolutely right. She transforms into Jackie, because there's everyone who works on the show knows this. There's Nikki and there's Jackie, and they are two different people. And then she turns and she looks me up and down and she says, you look nothing like Alex. And I go, and funny enough, I watched the show back and I'm like, yeah, that's not how I envisioned Alex would look either. Some of these shots, I'm like, what angle were you shooting me from? Who allowed this? Next, if we do a season 2, I'm stepping behind the monitor and making sure I look good in all of these shots. Because I'm like, that's not the Alex I remember either. But Allie's great. Love her a lot.
Okay, we only have a few more minutes. I want to get to some fan questions. We're going to do some quick round robins. The first one is from Gerardo from California for everyone. So if you could pick one character from the show to hang out with, which one would it be?
Danny Walter.
Second on Danny Walter.
I'd hang out with Lee and Isaac. We'd get into so much trouble.
Sarah, Mark?
My wife.
I'm out. You never choose a favorite. I'm out.
It's a character.
Sorry.
Okay,
Can't
that's
do
fair.
It shows my wife. Come on.
Oh,
Okay, well then.
there's that.
So good, right? Sarah, come on, me and you. The hell
Oh,
with the
that's it.
kids. When are we going to be empty nesters? Anyway,
Not for a while. From Ella from Brazil, if you could be any other character from the show except yours, who would you be?
oh, Nikki.
I would say Kylie. She's so like cool and just effortless and sarcastic. So yeah, big Kylie fan.
Kylie's badass. I would be Cole. I think that would be I actually personality wise align a lot. I align a little bit with Cole. I'm a little bit more devious and more reckless than Alex is. So I think that'd be fun.
I think it's funny you say that because I was going to say Alex. At least that way I'd have a decent shot at Jackie no matter what. But
yeah, smart.
but no, I actually think I more closely aligned with Alex too. Like you have to love Cole, but some of the times I'll read what he's doing and I'm like, and Alex is just so sweet.
Yeah,
So.
he's a sweetie.
This does get into from Kaylee from New York, who in the cast is most like their character. It can be people not on this. Is there anyone that really felt they were that person?
On top of my answer from who would I want to hang out with, Danny Walter, Connor Stanhope. I've said this before, but he was my twin in the show, and there was a certain thing where I don't have a twin in real life, but you just kind of like are on the same page with somebody at all times, and you can just be laying next to them and just kind of put your head in their shoulder and just feel safe. And that was the exact way I felt with Connor when we weren't filming. So something about that energy, that vibe, I love him dearly, and I miss him if he ever sees this, but that's my answer. Perfectly cast, I guess, is a great way to put it.
I think Mark and Sarah really are a lot like their respective characters. Like every part of them in the show being good parents is pulled directly from them just being good parents. We've witnessed them interact with their kids, and they're terrific parents. So I think there's some diligence that's owed to them.
And
Yeah.
then, oh, sorry. No, Nikki, you go.
No, I mean, those are perfect answers. That's exactly what I would say. So they stole my answers.
And then last question, from Lexi from Louisiana. Were there any songs that you listened to that helped to get you more into your character?
I
Songs
have
like-
one off the top of my head. I even told it to our showrunner, and I begged her to try and put it in the show. But it's Georgia by Phoebe Bridgers. That is the Alex Walter theme song, in my opinion. And hopefully maybe in a season 2. We'll never know.
That would be great. The show has some great needle drops. A
Yeah.
Phoebe Bridgers situation would be amazing.
Anyone else?
I leaned into a little bit of the soundtrack from the Friday Night Lights movie, which is by Explosions in the Sky. If anyone is familiar, they've done a few movies, but I remember watching that movie for the first time when I was growing up as a hockey player, and something about that emotion that comes in watching the sport for me just came across in such almost a seemingly simple, there's no lyrics in what I'm talking about, but just putting those on and kind of just like closing my eyes and feeling everything just wash over me. I would use that. I think it's called Home is one of the tracks. But yeah, Explosions in the Sky, if you hadn't heard, check them out.
Excellent.
Ashby, you made didn't you make like you kind of quizzed us all on, I feel like you quizzed us on what we'd listened to at home growing up, maybe is what it was. And
Yeah.
you made a playlist, and right? Do you remember
I
that, Mark?
did.
He asked us that stuff.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
like what we thought we would be playing, and I was like, oh, I think in the Walter family house there would be like vinyl, and I think it was like I had some Van Morrison in there. I had some James.
But
John
you
Denver in
added
Take
added
it
the
back.
Tupac and Biggie, Sarah. Sarah
I
added
did.
Tupac and Biggie to the Walter family playlist.
You see these kids.
Of course I did.
I love it. I don't think we can end on a better note than that. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Nikki, Noah, Ashby, Sarah, Mark, we appreciate you being with us this evening. Congratulations on the series. Everyone remember, My Life with the Walter Boys debuts on Thursday, December 7th, only on Netflix.
Thanks so much, everyone.